It is so beautiful for all of us to start a new sketchbook. But this time, we are not going to use a pre-manufactured one. We are going to make our own. And I'll walk you through the entire process and also what we are going to make in it and why. There are additional resources that you can get inside. It will be available under August, but I'm going to put it in the open studio sessions for future use so that you can make a journal for yourself at any time. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to create signatures like this. Signatures are parts of a sketchbook that come together or a journal, and a stack of them together like this is called a text block. So I've created one before, and oops. So this one is nice and thick. You see, it has tons of beautiful things in it. My favorite being this scene where the light streams through the water. And yes, the little notation I put down on this page says to shine a light or put some fire under something. We will now activate the actions necessary to get the life we want. And that's what this map and journey is about, is discovering how we can use the elements to figure out what thoughts are running in our minds, to figure out what emotions we are going through, and to understand that certain actions will help us move forward and other actions will keep us back. We're going to make this fun. We're going to make it interactive. And our first order of business is to make that beautiful journal. You can download all the resources and follow along as we take this journey with a few videos to show you what we do inside them, how all of these things are going to unfold, and also to make this journal or this sketchbook journal something fun and interactive for us to do together. So let's get our saltwater soul surfing and landmarks journey going. All right, back at the desk, I already have my 3 pages. So it's 1, 2, 3. This one was folded into that thirds, right? And I decided to have all my edges torn. So you can go ahead and tear your edges if they are not torn yet. Just loosely by hand. It doesn't have to be perfect. My inner one isn't torn, so I'll go ahead and tear that one as well. Now, this specific watercolor paper is very easy to tear, and because it's really easy to tear, it separates fairly quickly as well. Now, this long strip that I took off there, I'm going to roughen up the other edge as well, because I want to use this to sort of simulate what I've done on this one. Oops, it wasn't that one. Which one was it? Oh, the original. By adding this strip in that I'm going to paint gold at the end. And I'll explain a little bit more about it later, but it sort of resembles fixing something that was broken. And if you had to fix something in your life, or if you are gearing up to fix something in your life, then you'll also more than likely need that strip on there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use my glue. As you know from the previous video, this glue is Mod Podge, and I just put it in this little container to make it easier to fit into my travel box. This one that I carry with me wherever I go, even to my in-person classes. So we can stick that part down, and I'll show you how we are going to assemble our first signature of our new journal. Now, it doesn't matter which way around you stick it down, as long as you have that reminder there of maybe you had a tear in a relationship, a tear with a business partner, a tear in your family, or something negative that happened that you might need an opportunity to fix or repair in some way. All right. So with the other two pages, they are literally just folded in half. Now, if you cannot follow along for whatever reason, let's say you have, I want to keep the two similar papers together. So this will be hand stitched in there, and I'll show you how to do that. But what I wanted to say was, if for some reason you cannot do this on separate pages or even pages this size, you can do the exact same process in a smaller journal like this. Just remember, before you fold that loose page, keep one out to fold in this three-fold manner. So you'd have a fold there and there on an A4, just to resemble that. So I'm not going to do a little journal. I'm just going to show you all the things we need for our first signature. So the other pages are just going to be folded in half. And like I said, I wanted this one that is the similar paper to this to be together, and the left hand side. Why do I keep on saying right hand side? The left hand side is going to safely tuck in there, and with that I'm going to use my 5-hole method to bind this together. So the next thing you'll need is thread and a needle. Now mine is always close by because I'm forever adding pages or bringing in extra signatures into my work, and I'm just going to use my needle to pierce the 5 holes. So guessing where the middle is, one in the middle, one about 2 fingers away, and another one 2 more fingers away. So you'll have 5 holes all in all. Right. Now I'm taking some thread and usually have anything between 1.5 to 3 lengths, depending on how much I want left over. So for this one, I want a really tight knot, and I'm going to start in the middle anyway, so that knot will be hidden. But if you want a longer knot, you can have 2 to 3 lengths to bind your book with. Now with this thread, you're not going to make a knot. We are going to have a little part stick out the other side. So we'll start from the outside and pierce through all 3 our holes. If you can't find your holes, just open up your pages one by one and thread your needle through all 3 of them. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you're used to this hole finding process, it becomes really easy. All right, now we're going to pull a little part of this thread through and leave around 3 fingers of thread on the other side, and start weaving back and forth into the next hole, out the back, into the next hole, just like I'm showing here. If you get lost, it's easy to find your way in this first half as you guide the needle through and stabilize the papers. You can also use a clip or something to hold your sheets. Now I need to work backwards to that center and then pass the center to the other side. And holding onto that middle thread just helps. And you'll see in a second here, I'm going to flip the entire stack over as soon as I've got this hole in, because I like to work with my right hand holding the needle and my left hand firmly holding onto the page. And it felt like the page was getting away from me the further away I went. So whichever way you like to work is going to be good for you. Now we're almost done, and once you've reached that center, you loop it back into the previous loop, give it a double knot, and your first signature is ready. I am getting very excited about using this homemade journal and all the pages we're going to create afterwards and all the signatures we're going to put together into this lovely journal. The signatures can fit snugly as I'm showing here in this little journal, and we can just tie them together later. Don't worry about that now. Or if you want to build your whole book and add as many signatures as you want, you can go ahead and do that now. So that quick flip through of this little journal, and we are about ready to get to what we need to do next. Now, if you are ready to paint along, grab those watercolors, brushes, and prepare yourself to create a beautiful map that will reveal your journey as you unfold those pages. Don't be afraid to let loose and just be creative. There's nothing serious going on here. We are just building on that fun and making sure the map comes together in the most creative and playful way. You also don't need a real map. We are going to use our imaginations. So, let's grab that little blue palette that I bought from Target. And I've also seen these at Kmart. So wherever you can get hold of this blue palette, it is gorgeous. It's beautiful. We've been working with it for about 2 or 3 weeks now. And the colors are vibrant. They pop off the page. And for a very, very affordable price, this is something I would recommend you get. Our brushes are this flat brush from Holcraft, and I'm going to loosely create this scene. So you can pre-wet your outer edge if you want. We've done a version like that in our in-person classes, but I'm going to start with a fairly wet brush, a little bit of color, and just wash some ocean colors around an imaginary blank spot in the middle. In other words, add color to the corners and work them in so they are nice and wet so that the colors can move and that we sort of make use of each and every color in this little 12 color pan. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just painting around that imaginary place where I want to put a piece of land. Not making too much of a fuss of it. And if the paper feels dry, just spray it a little bit with your little water spray bottle, just to pre-moisten it if you want, if it's not moving. I'm not sure what paper you used, but this one felt a little bit stiff. Okay, few strokes of the brush. As you can see, that brush literally fits into that little pan and enables me to grab a bunch of color with every stroke. Here's some of the color that's looking a little deep turquoisey sea green, and That's also beautiful. We have so many different ocean colors that you really can't go wrong no matter what blue you decide to use. And if there's areas that you accidentally wash in too much water, that's fine. Let it be. Let those watercolors move and explore their own way of traveling. For now, just focus on that outer edge. Create enough color variation and keep it loose. I've tried out these colors on a separate piece of paper, and you can do that too before you start. But I already knew what these colors looked like, and I just wanted to get them on the map. Now, you'll see I'm also working fairly roughly, not really trying to paint waves or trying to paint anything specific or holding space for a potential island to pop up. I'm going to let the paint show me where the islands want to live and thereby freeing my own mind up to explore the possibilities instead of showing uh, the paint who's boss. I'm going to let the paint be the boss. All right, nice generous helpings of color and generous helpings of water, putting it all across, and then coming back in with lots of water, lots of paint, and while it's wet, splashing in a few dots here and there. And if they don't want to move, we can add more water, of course, and then help those pigment puddles play. If you're struggling to get your paint off your brush, there are three ways to do it. You can either tap on your brush, you can flick the brush over your finger, or you can pinch the bristles between your thumb and index finger and help that to splash. Be careful not to splash everything around you. I just saw that I splashed some blue paint on the bunny, and my daughter's not going to be happy with that. So I better clean it up quickly so that she doesn't see it and that I can save the fur from any more color damage. All right, there we go. She's nice and clean again, and I don't have to feel guilty. So what I'm holding here paint on her is a map we did in class, and in it I created a edge for where the one we did today. I just went up to the edge. So you can have your map any way you like. Uh, you could leave that edge and decorate it later. You could do your map smaller, you can make it bigger, whatever tickles your fancy. So I'm going to put away that little blue palette for now and focus more on colors for the earth and mountains and whatever other land masses want to appear in this page. So I'm waking up some of those yellows and browns and just mixing them in together, adding more water as we go, much the same as what we used for the ocean, only this time earthy colors. Here on this edge, I'm using a lot of that yellow ochre and blending it into the ocean area, almost to simulate a beach. Next, I'll grab more of the greens and create a lush dark green forest on this edge that flow into some brown areas. Who knows what type of land mass this is? A few dots here and there scattered over that ocean could represent rocks or anything you want. And if you want inspiration on what to draw or what to paint, grab Google Maps and go to the satellite view to see what landscapes look like from the air. That will give you a nice indication. On this little edge, I'm putting some lime green and scrubbing it into those land masses, adding some water. And have you noticed I'm still using the same brush? I haven't switched brushes at all. So maybe this side could be a tropical beach and a little bit of an oasis with lots and lots of trees and going into that lime green area. Now, I'm imagining my landscape as a paradise of some sorts, maybe a future place I want to visit, or somewhere in my imagination I could visit if life got a little bit hard or difficult. Now, this little patch here is very reminiscent to the region we live in here in Victoria, and with all the water masses in between the lands, creating beautiful, lush greenery. And we're right on the edge near the ocean. And having the beach on the one hand and the greenery on the other end is like living in paradise already. So, did you see that little island there on the top? A little mark here and there, and more islands are coming together. For now, I'm happy, and I want to show you why we need a map. A map is there to show us where we've been, where we are now, and where we are going. And because of that, we have questions that we can think about if we consider where we are on our journey at this very moment. Now, I'm taking some of those leftover pieces that I tore off my map and turning those into 3 questions that I would like to answer to myself at some point. And those 3 questions are: where am I now? Where am I going? And then who and why? I'm specifically talking about my network of friends, the community around me, and also my relationships. It's so funny that the word relationship has the word ship in, as we travel with our friends in friendships along our own journeys. And our friendships are very, very important as we take on each and every new chapter. Now, I'm going to leave these and not answer them on video. I am going to answer them later in private, but I could stick them on my map if I wanted to. But because I'm showing my maps and pages in video form or even in in-person classes, I am going to hide them somewhere in my map. Now, I was considering putting them here in the front, but I've got other plans for this front section. So what I'm going to do is hide mine here in the back. That will give me a nice place to reflect a little bit later, and in the meantime, I can just glue them in there and keep them safe until I'm ready to answer those questions for myself. I hope you are making time to reflect on your journey, even if it's just something you're thinking about now. That's where everything happens. Is we start thinking about our past, we start daydreaming about our current situations, and then we step into a new reality with future dreams of what possibly could become part of our lives. We should never stop dreaming, and we should never stop looking forward to something new in our lives. There, my questions are safely tucked in here. I'll just move this one a bit. It's hidden, and I can answer that when I'm ready. Now, that feels a little bit wet still, and before we do anything else, we have to let all of this dry. Now, in the meantime, let me show you what we've been up to in our in-person classes. This here is a map, one we can draw ourselves, and in our map we have several sections meandering between little islands, and each of these islands are activities and things we love doing. In other words, things on our journey. Now I'll show you in my sketchbook what we did here. So I started off with a meandering line, and that meandering line went around some islands. We had a treasure chest, we had a little star that represents ourselves or maybe our starting point. And then that one single line goes right up to the treasure chest. And then everything else fits in between. But while we're adding all of these things, our map begins to hide certain things from us, just like a maze. And that's how our journeys often take place, is everything is a maze that needs to be unraveled and figured out before we can get to that treasure. And along the way, those islands have secret messages that will help us navigate to the next part. So, herein is the secret. Everything is a winding journey. There's nothing that goes straight towards where you want to be, and it doesn't matter how hard you try or how good you get in life with anything you do. You have a lot of shiz to deal with, and that shiz can be unraveled and become part of the journey. Now, in this little ribbon here, I am going to write the date. This date commemorates a new chapter or a new beginning or whatever I want this series to be about or this part in my sketchbook to be about. I will know what that means, and when you do your date, you will know what it means. And every time we try out this practice, just give me a second here. I made a mistake there with the uh, date I wanted to write, um, where my journey began. And I'm going way, way back to 2006, where I had to take a whole new route and rediscover myself. And you know what? I just want you to know that it's never ever too late to start a new journey, to start a new chapter, and to take care of yourself so that you can find your pot of gold or your chest of gold. Now, before we move on, I just want to mention we'll talk about the parrot and that internal dialogue a little bit later. For now, I want to talk to you about the experiments we have along our journey and, of course, the lighthouses that shone a light to us and for us while we were taking our journey. So in class, we used granulating liquid to create little experiments there, that one on top. The second one, we used soap blended with water. And in the last one, we used water on its own. And because these are just experiments, you can do all of them on one page, try them out, see what textures and effects you get, and just create something as a reference. If you don't have granulating fluid or um, soap or something to texturize your paint with, come up with your own set of experiments and try several thicknesses of paint. Here at this top area, we used very thick paint and dropped in some of that. And the experiments on the left was very watery. And in comparison, you can see what a difference those experiments make when you use different things. Now in the bottom, I used masking fluid on the right and candle wax on the left. And you can do as many experiments as you like with things you have, like I mentioned before, and not be afraid to try out a few experiments of your own. Here in the sky, I used more water and in places I added a little bit of soap just to see what it does to the water. And then I drew on the little lighthouses and just a couple of white lines here and there. Who knows what experiments you can come up with. Just keep it simple and easy. Now on my map, I'm going to place 3 lighthouses. One is for the the person who saved me from myself. The other lighthouse is for someone who shone a light when I was in darkness. And then the third lighthouse, a very small one, is going to be one where I saved myself from making a very big mistake. So because I have more leftover paper, I'm going to draw a few lighthouses onto that and then paint them, cut them out and stick them in these 3 random places. It doesn't really matter where you place them. It's that you know what and who they represent. So just place them anywhere you like and start painting those little lighthouses. All right, I'm going to do all of them in a blue initially, just a little straight up line that will represent a lighthouse. The second one exactly the same, nothing with too much detail or too much attention to detail at this stage, just an indication of where they will live. Next, I'll take some color and start adding a little bit of detail just to outline that and give each of the little lighthouses a different shape. I'm mixing up some browns and adding a little bit of neutral tint there to create a rock for this one to stand on. And it doesn't have to be too elaborate or too much detail, just a little indication that that upright mark is living on top of a rock. Now I want to add some red in here, but it's very wet, so I'm going to dab most of it off and try again. There's always room for improvement and room for change, and you shouldn't be afraid to do that with watercolor. So this time I'm starting with stripes instead of a solid blue background, and then adding in some of the red stripes in between the blues I've already placed there. And that seems to work much better anyway. I'll add a little bit of extra blue here for a base. That could maybe represent a wave or maybe a blue rock, who knows. Seeing how wet that top one is, I'm definitely going to dab some of it off and start with maybe yellow and some of that neutral tint to create another little lighthouse. Now that they're all dry, I can go ahead and cut them out so that I can stick them down where they need to live. If you need help and guidance along your path or your journey, please don't hesitate to reach out to those who can help you. Do not do any of this on your own. If you're struggling, ask for help. If you're going through something difficult, find a friend who you can trust, who you can confide in, and make them part of your healing journey. Make them part of the light that you are looking for. Don't ever be afraid to look for the lighthouses in your life so that you can see where to go next. So I hope you enjoyed painting this first part of our journey, the map. And next, we'll do a couple of little collage elements. And I'm going to fix that little ship inside the aroma journal. Now, aren't we lucky that we already fixed this sailboat last week and that we had a really good catch up on how to do that with a full video. Now, in case you missed that, I drew a little boat, filled the old ocean with more ocean colors, and then also went ahead and drew out a pink lighthouse. And that cute little pink lighthouse was my reminder to remember to shine my light. Now, in this series of creating the sublime serenity and painting this beautiful ocean scene, you can also find additional prompts of other things you can put in your journals. And hopefully this has jolted some ideas and given you a direction of where you might lead your dreams. So let's not forget to have fun in our sketchbooks and to let watercolor do most of the work. We don't have to do it all ourselves, and we don't have to figure it out until we are in the moment. Just like life, we don't have to have all the answers. We can find our way by just being in the moment, being there, participating, so that we can take the next step and figure it out as we go. The answers will come when we start taking action. I hope you enjoyed this series and all the beautiful things we've shared. I cannot wait to see what you create. Please share it in the community.